Is mapping or in some way representing the national biodiversity, biodata, into biosecurity landscape. Landscape is maybe not the best term, and mapping is maybe not the best term, because we're talking about a diagram, a representation. So this process kind of in my head has evolved over about 6 or 8 years in working in this area, and has been catalysed just recently because TIFBIS have asked me to sort of put this together to help the TIFBIS committee. So this is just kind of a brief glimpse at that and a request for some input on it as well, because there are so many things to represent and so many different axes of representing it that I'm not going to be able to get everything in the first pass. So firstly, where I kind of started from, the first time that I attempted to do anything like this was this diagram here, which was first for a policy paper for Morse, and then also made its way into the TIFBIS strategy. So that showed the relationship between strategies, funds, and initiatives that were creating information systems. So you had DOC, LINS, MORST, whole of government stuff, National Library stuff. Can someone hit a key on there? Okay. This then was the result of a piece of work that I did for Alison Fleming, who was then CIO at DOC, on dealing with science data, with research data. So stuff that might not quite fit into the scope of what might be captured in BioWeb, natural heritage monitoring system. And it was an attempt to look at, what are the different information systems that DOC might have to relate to in some way. And the kind of first thing that you get by looking at that is, oh my God, there's really a lot of them. But you also get kind of a sense of the main organisations, the main categories of those data being collected and maybe being accessible, in this case to DOC, but in terms of the whole federated system. What wasn't on that picture is NGOs, so OSNZ, Plant Conservation Network, those sorts of folks, and so there's a lot more than was there. So if you can hit that again. So this is the first attempt at trying to represent it in a particular way, and if you can just hand around copies of these. There's sort of two purposes for that. One is so you can see what's tiny text on the screen, and the other is that you can give me some feedback. I'm hoping that you'll draw the right things on it and give it back to me at some stage during the workshop. So on the left here is a representation of kind of a set of layers, although we need a different word than layers, a set of kind of components in the stack of data information systems. And this came out of a brainstorm that Jerry Cooper and I did, in fact, yesterday. So you've got primary data. You've got aggregated primary data, so where that's pulled together into some kind of system, but it's still that same primary data. Then you've got secondary data, so derived things that are created, publications and databases that are created out of that primary data. You've then got kind of what we're calling middleware and infrastructure, and I'll talk about that in a bit more in regards to the presentation of Maroto on Enzor and then further stuff on national infrastructure. But this is kind of the glue, the things that helps connect the data from all these disparate sources together. And then you've got services, web services, so things that your systems can access to grab data from other places that are generally enabled by some kind of middleware or infrastructure. You've then got interpretive tools, so things like decision support systems and identification keys and things that use models to give you some kind of predictive ability about weed spread or pest spread or threat management, all of those sorts of things. And then at the top, there's kind of portals, ways of accessing this information. And I've kind of lumped together data capture, so they're not always portals, they're kind of tools. So things like Caddisfly and Formac and Cement Lite and Nibs Lite. That might not actually be a website, there's some kind of tool for grabbing data. A whole range of portals for websites that you can go to get access to the data. And then right at the top, the kind of discovery layer. So metadata repositories saying where data sets are and what work is being done, what projects are being done. So that's that picture, and that side there was sort of reasonably easy to come up with. Along here, Jerry and I kind of wrestled with a few different ideas in terms of how you might represent that across a continuum. And we kind of settled on sort of understanding biodiversity and preserving biodiversity. So at this end here, you've got all of the Landcare and NIWA collections databases and the museums and universities and herbaria and that sort of thing. And then down the other end, you've got regional council databases and docs systems and the NGOs system. So more about preserving it, managing it, rather than understanding from a scientific perspective how it works. We kind of wrestled with some other continua, like sort of collect, species through to sites, but that didn't quite fit, and we kind of realised that it's actually quite sort of a multi-dimensional thing, and you need something really complicated that you can actually understand to really accurately represent it. So what we can see so far is either there are lots of things that exist here in these gaps that I haven't captured, or that's kind of where the gaps are. There's lots of primary data and systems to manage primary data. And there's a bunch of separate portals to provide access to that stuff, but there isn't all that much in the middle that's kind of gluing it together. So what I would like you to do, if you have any additions to make or any comments or criticism about this, any systems that I've missed, is just to draw them, write them in on the pieces of paper. If you can, write your name on it as well if I want to follow up with any questions, and then give them back to me at some stage during today or tomorrow.
Just a quick question, Julian. Have you got a digital copy of your presentation that's available, just going over sort of the way with that?
Yes. Yeah. It's on a PowerPoint. This is a Visio diagram.
Yeah.
I can make it available as a PDF or whatever. The sort of next steps for it are that once I've sort of gathered a bit more information, the TIFBIS committee members are going to take it and sort of put their things on it, and we're running a workshop with TIFBIS to sort of say, does this represent things and where are the gaps, and then we'll end up with a sort of a slightly more finished version.